October 17, 2004. A Monday morning like any other in Linda. Mothers wave from porches, children hurry to school, and somewhere a bus driver yawns into the cold. But in a matter of minutes, this quiet corner of Sweden will become the site of one of the country's most confounding crimes. A double murder without motive, committed in broad daylight, leaving the community paralyzed by fear and confusion. At 8:03 a.m., a scream cuts through the crisp air. 2 minutes later, another. When police arrive, they find the boy, Jonas Nielsen, and a passerby, Ellen Svensson, both brutally stabbed. The weapon, a butterfly knife, is abandoned nearby, wiped hastily. A wool cap lies half-buried in the gutter. The city wakes to horror. The news spreads fast. A child and a woman, murdered in daylight, no witnesses, no suspect. Parents keep children home from school. Neighbors look at one another differently. Linda becomes a place defined by a wound it cannot see, only feel. Within hours, the investigation begins. Within weeks, frustration sets in. And within months, hope begins to fade. Detective Martin Lindberg had been with the Linda police for 17 years. He'd seen tragedies, car wrecks, suicides, even an unsolved disappearance or two, but nothing like this. When he stepped onto Asketon that morning, he could tell immediately. This was not a planned killing. It had the chaotic signature of impulse, of rage without logic. The wounds were erratic, the attack quick and furious. The forensics team collected DNA from the knife handle and the wool cap. There was blood belonging to the victims, and an unknown male donor. A partial fingerprint smudged on the cap's inner lining. Martin believed at first it would be simple. They had the killer's DNA. They'd test it against local offenders, run it through Sweden's national database, and make an arrest before Christmas. But weeks became months. The DNA matched no one. The fingerprint yielded nothing. Thousands of interviews, neighbors, ex-convicts, hospital staff, none led anywhere. He began to dream of the red jacket. Sometimes he saw it lying in the snow. Sometimes he saw it burning. The case clung to him like frost to glass. Christmas 2004 came and went. The families grieved privately. The city built 2 small memorials, one near the school, one at the site of the attack. By spring, the newspapers had moved on. But Martin couldn't. He stored the file in a drawer marked Asketon Murders. It became part of his daily ritual. Open it, read a page, close it, repeat. 16 years later, he would still be doing that. In 2020, a breakthrough arrived. Not in the form of a new witness, but a new science. Forensic genealogy was sweeping across the Atlantic. American investigators had begun using public DNA databases to find relatives of unidentified killers. It was controversial but effective. In Sweden, the practice was virtually unheard of. Privacy laws were strict, and most law enforcement officials viewed the idea with skepticism. But Martin Lindberg had grown tired of waiting. He reached out to a civilian expert, Sofia Ahlgren, a genealogist who had spent years tracing family histories for adoptees. When she first walked into his office, she looked more academic than investigator. She spoke softly but with precision, explaining how even a tiny DNA sample could, through genealogy, reveal distant relatives, third or fourth cousins, who might unknowingly lead to a suspect. Martin listened, uncertain. 16 years had passed. Could this really work now? Sophia smiled slightly. Every person leaves a trail, detective. You just need to know which map to use. She uploaded the crime scene DNA profile to an international genealogy database, one used for recreational ancestry research. Within a week, 2 matches appeared. Distant, fifth cousins. But it was something. Sophia began to draw lines, names, birth records, marriage certificates. The past was talking again. The work was slow and maddening. Each DNA link she found was like a faint echo of the killer's bloodline. Remote cousins in other towns and other countries. Yet every connection narrowed the circle. Sophia traced records from church archives dating back to the 1800s. Births, marriages, deaths. Each entry another thread. Gradually, the lines converged around a small region just 30 kilometers north of Linda. From a dozen family branches, 2 names appeared again and again. Brothers, sons of a man who had lived near the city until 2004. Martin reviewed the details. One brother married with 2 children and a long-term job at a factory. The other, younger brother, Eric Jonasson, was different. No stable work. A short history of mental illness. frequent relocations. Lived alone in an apartment not far from where the murders had taken place. Martin stared at the name for a long moment. The memory of the red jacket came back. Could it be him? Sophia ran cross-checks through national records. Erik Jonasson had never been arrested, never even fined. His DNA had never been entered into the system. The realization hit them both. If not for genealogy, his name would never have surfaced. The investigation, dormant for over a decade, was breathing again. The surveillance was quiet and methodical. For 3 nights, officers watched Erik Jonasson leave and return. He bought groceries, smoked on his balcony, took out trash. An unremarkable life. Then one evening he discarded a coffee cup into a public bin. Investigators retrieved it within minutes. The DNA on the rim matched the crime scene sample perfectly. When confronted, Erik didn't resist arrest. At first he denied everything. But as the questioning continued, his voice began to tremble. He confessed. "I didn't mean to," he said. "The voices, they told me the boy had something inside him. Something evil. She tried to stop me." In that moment, 16 years of confusion crystallized into a single tragic truth. Erik Jonasson had been in the midst of a psychotic breakdown, untreated and undiagnosed, when he attacked. He had lived with the guilt ever since, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the day it would find him. Martin listened in silence as Erik spoke. The confession was both a victory and a heartbreak. The detective walked out of the interrogation room and sat alone in the corridor. For 16 years he had dreamed of catching the killer. Now that he felt no triumph, only a hollow stillness. The trial of Erik Jonasson lasted just 2 weeks. The evidence was irrefutable. The DNA, the confession, the psychiatric evaluation. Psychiatrists testified that Erik had suffered from untreated schizophrenia. At the time of the killings, he had been hearing voices commanding him to remove the evil from the world. The court found him guilty but not criminally responsible. He was sentenced to indefinite psychiatric care. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters called it the breakthrough case, hailing the new DNA method that had cracked a mystery once thought unsolvable. But for Martin Lindberg, there was no celebration. He stood on the courthouse steps and looked at the sky, gray and empty. He thought of Jonas's parents, of Ellen's daughter, of the 16 lost years. When the media frenzy faded, Martin went home and placed the file back into the same drawer where it had slept for over a decade. Only now did it feel complete. That night he dreamed again of the red jacket, but this time the boy turned and smiled. 1 year later, Linda was quieter, softer somehow. The snow covered the scars, but beneath it the memory remained. Every October, the city held a brief ceremony at the memorial. Children from the local school placed flowers. The mayor gave a short speech about resilience. Martin attended each year quietly at the back. He never spoke, never took credit. He simply watched as life, slow, fragile, persistent, went on. Sophia continued her genealogical work, now consulting for cold case units across Europe. Sometimes late at night she would stare at a list of DNA codes and wonder whose stories lay behind them. The technology had changed everything. What once seemed impossible, the tracing of a killer through generations of ancestry, had become a new frontier of justice. But she knew it was also a heavy power. One that revealed not just criminals, but family secrets, hidden pasts, forgotten bloodlines. And still it had been worth it. Because 2 families could finally sleep. Justice rarely arrives on time. Sometimes it drifts, invisible, waiting for the world to invent the tools needed to see it. For 16 years, 2 families lived in darkness. For 16 years, a city carried guilt and fear. And then a strand of DNA, a molecule smaller than dust, told the truth. It didn't undo the tragedy. It didn't bring back the lost. But it proved that patience, science, and human determination can reach even across decades to find the answer. Detective Martin Lindberg retired quietly a year after the case closed. Sophia Ahlgren founded a non-profit helping investigators apply genealogical methods ethically. And in Linda, every spring the birch trees bloom again. Beneath them the memorial still stands. The wounds of the past have not vanished, but they have a name. And in that name the city found peace.